This is the video about voice. Pay attention.
Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 24th, and today would be a B day. This is our, seventh day of the school closures due to COVID-19, and this is going to be video number 5 for me. And as you may have noticed, hopefully it's noticeable, there's a slight difference to this video. You don't have to stare at me necessarily. There is some editing going on for once, and hopefully that's an improvement, not just because my face isn't necessarily on the video. So today's video is, as Optimus informed you in the beginning, going to be about voice in literature, and specifically what it is, what you have to think about when reading, and potentially what you have to take into consideration when writing. So that's our goal for our little discussion today. So what is voice? Voice in literature refers to how an author or the narrator expresses his or her emotions, attitude, tone, and or point of view in a written work. This is accomplished through the thoughtful and deliberate usage of words and sentence structures. So the voice of an author comes across in the way he or she writes. Authors over time will develop a specific pattern or style to the way they write. The sentence structures they create, be they long and overly elaborate or very short into the point. Hemingway coming to mind, having a very distinct style, and then think of Dr. Seuss. And of course, we're talking very different ends of the spectrum here, but everyone knows the Dr. Seuss style of writing with the rhyme schemes and so forth. So that's their voice. And voice is important to develop as a writer because it distinguishes who you are. It can set you apart from others, and it adds something to your writing. It can be something that your readers become attached to, that they look forward to and enjoy, and can be a great way to distinguish yourself. It is something that takes a while to develop. You know, writers hone their voice over many years. Sometimes students, really start to develop this early on, but it's not exactly something that you can just read about and then all of a sudden you're writing with this distinct voice. So it's something that takes practice. And there's a couple of different things you have to think about when it comes to voice. I'm going to start with reading. So when you're reading and you're looking at the voice, you want to think about what the author is trying to convey with his or her voice. What type of words are they using? What's the what's the general feeling or mood that's present with the words they're choosing, right? So if you can pick up on some of the way the words are used, their connotation of the words, the way they are. Are they positive in nature? Are they negative in nature? Can you pick up on an attitude? Can you pick up on how an author feels about a given subject based on what they're writing, based on the words they're using? The other thing you have to think about when it comes to voice is the voice of the narrator. Specifically, do you have a reliable narrator? So if you're reading the story and the narrator is a small child, do we have to worry about if the story is being told accurately, right? Because that's a major consideration. And as a parent with 2 children, it's something I have learned firsthand. They are not the most reliable narrators. And when you are reading, think about that. Think about clues throughout a story to let you know whether or not you can trust it. If we look back to a book that my students read in class, Restart, we had a narrator who suffered head trauma and lost his memory. So his recollection of events wasn't exactly correct. And in that story, Restart, chapters would switch between perspectives of different characters, and there were times when characters had motives against the protagonist where they didn't like him, and therefore that was changing the way they treated him, and again would create some issues where we didn't know if we could trust the narrator. So an example of an unreliable narrator. So that's an important thing to take into consideration when you're reading, the point of view of the narrator, which brings us into a whole separate piece of points of view in literature. And that's probably going to be a topic for the video for tomorrow, where I go over the different points of view that can happen. Now, hopefully everyone is doing well with their distance learning attempts, not just my students, but anybody who stumbles across this video. There is a whole lot to figure out with this whole process. And the most important piece about it is that you remain optimistic, you retain a sense of perseverance. There is going to be a lot of frustrations throughout this whole process, particularly as students across the country, for the most part, start logging into essentially 3 or 4 different systems to attempt to distance learning. Schoology is what we're using, my students, and I know that yesterday on the 23rd, there were all sorts of crashes going on. It took me personally forever just to upload some basic things. Every time I logged on, it would crash. Every time I typed something and tried to save it, it would crash. And it's going to become a matter of having to be, resilient and patient. And again, always trying to find some benefit or learning chance here. This is where we get to learn perseverance, where we can learn that we can't just give up. We can't just throw our hands up in the air and go, I tried, didn't work, it crashed. I can go back to, catching bugs in Animal Crossing. You can't just give up. You have to persevere and you have to be patient, right? The system is going to crash with so many people trying to log in and work at the same time. And, there'll be some kinks in the system, but it'll work eventually. And if you're patient and you persevere, you'll get through this. And we'll all get through this. And essentially, that's all there is to this, right? We just have to be patient and know that at the end of this, we are going to have amazing stories to tell. We're going to have a great way to make connections as we move on through our lives, when we can talk to people and compare stories on how we made it through quarantining and social distancing and all of the other things we did. So look at the bright side, be prepared for whatever little challenges pop up, and take advantage of the opportunities. This is a great opportunity to develop some new skills with all this downtime. It's a great opportunity to start trying to write more and develop your own voice. And I hope you're all doing that. Until then, I look forward to making more videos for you and hopefully making them slightly better than this one. And until next time, have a good day.